Well, hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining this Visual FoxPro Data Migration Tech Talk series. This is the second of three sessions for this topic. I am Joe Raffinelli. I'm Director of Technical Solutions here at Macrosoft. We are a customized software development company, and we migrate old technologies to newer technologies. We are located in Parsippany, New Jersey. I am here with my colleague, Imran. He is our VP of Migration Services. He's going to discuss best practices for a VFP database migration project and how it is to be successful. Imran, thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for your time.
Hello, everyone. We will discuss the technical aspects of VFP database migration projects based on our many years of experience today.
Perfect, perfect. So, Imran, let's start with some easy questions. So, um, folks that generally will join these meetings are new to database migrations. Can you just let them know what some of the challenges are and what some of the do's and don'ts are, for such a migration?
Um, Visual FoxPro provides a database um, and the complete application development framework also. 90% of VFP applications uses its own database. So it's not only migrating the VFP database, it's migrating the whole application. And database migration plan should be made according to overall application development plan in the modern platform. What we care about is guarantee success. And success for migration project is how quick you replace the legacy application with the modern application in production. There are always two opinions. One is to migrate database as is with minimal changes. Second, redesign the database and import data from the legacy to the new database. Microsoft advised to migrate as is with minimal required changes to database. This way, the application migration time is minimal and maximum accuracy will be achieved.
Sounds like you really got to know what you're doing, when you're doing that database migration, because it could mess things up. So, you deal a lot with potential clients, and they also get lost. They typically get lost in like the details. So I want to help these folks be, I want to be clear as we can be with the folks that are audience. Can you let us know like some of your recommendations and even some of your pitfalls when you're doing a data migration?
Right. First, it's very important to analyze VFP database carefully and plan the migration. This includes analysis of the data types, relationships, indexes, keys, so on and so forth. Then assessing the quality of data is very important, and data integration is required. This has to be assessed very carefully. We should define the data type mapping for the given migration project. We prefer to use an automated tool like Datamorph. Tools come with many advantages, especially when it required to migrate the data multiple times. Plan how to test migrated data accuracy and completeness. There can be different ways to do this. Most common one is to match the record count in VFP and the new database. Better to generate the log because it's challenging to find which record is not migrated because of what reason. Plan the changes and assess their effects to migrated data and how application will be handling these. It is always recommended to thoroughly test the migration process with a subset of the data before migrating the entire database to ensure that the data is accurately and successfully transferred or migrated to the new database.
I totally agree with you there. Testing so important for folks. Hopefully everybody's getting that point. So stepping away from the actual database migration just for a moment, what are other database specific points to consider that we can share with the audience?
Right. Apart from the general database migration in FoxPro, there are deleted records which are marked for deletion, but they remain in the database until they are compacted or purged. Um, when migrating data from VFP to SQL Server, let's suppose, you can choose to handle the deleted records in several ways. Most common is import only the active records. VFP pack command is used to permanently delete the um, logically deleted records before migration. Second, it's important, all records, including deleted ones. If program requires to keep deleted records, we suggest to have a field for is deleted. Some programs require, and they already have the filter for is deleted record because to implement some logic. Referential integrity (RI) is implemented through auto-generated triggers in VFP database. This should be developed in target database or programming in the application. VFP database can have empty date fields. You need to decide either empty date will be migrated or null or a default date. For example, January 1st, 1900 can be a default date for um, the value which is empty in the date field. Memo type fields shall be migrated to varchar fields.
Thank you. That's a lot to consider. So appreciate you sketching that out for us. So as you know, we commonly deal with either potential clients or clients like I said before. Common question basically talks about the confidentiality and how we encrypt data, how encrypted data is handled. Maybe we can just tell folks, get them more comfortable how we handle it and what they can expect, from a data migration from a confidentiality perspective.
Very important question and very important to understand the confidential data, like social security number is stored in database. We
Right.
cannot store it in a plain format because everyone can access it and it might compromise on the security. So we store this SSN or other confidential data in encrypted form. It is important to note that the encryption method used in the VFP may be compatible with the SQL Server. So you may need to consider using a different encryption method in SQL Server if it is not compatible. Or if the encryption is the data is encrypted through a different method, so it's required to be analyzed properly. Best practice is to decrypt data before migration and encrypt it again in new database if the encryption through programming is being implemented. Client always asks us how we can share our confidential data with you even it is encrypted. It is always a security concern. We ask clients to provide us sample data. We will define the encryption decryption logic, and you can execute these programs yourself in your environment. We have done projects with confidential data, like personal identification, info, PII, SSN, etc. Since we work with sample or anonymized data, so there are no issues. However, it always a challenge to read encrypted data for testing or debugging purpose.
Like you had said, confidentiality, key thing that clients bring up, and it's obviously very recognizable for Microsoft, and we obviously take care of that as best we can. Another question that comes up is anonymization. So folks typically want to know how, what does that mean, right? And then how this data get anonymized.
This is another important aspect to understand in addition to the encryption. Anonymization is used where data is confidential, but encryption is not required. In this technique, we replace the actual data with fake data, which looks real, but it's not the actual data. For applying this technique in the VFP database, you will not find any tool. However, you can find tools for modern databases like SQL Server. Some clients migrate their data to modern database um, and then anonymize the data in there, like SQL Server, and then import it back to the VFP database. It's a long process. Microsoft has an easy solution for it. We have developed our own tool for this purpose. A tool can anonymize the data in the VFP database. This sounds very good, but in real world projects, uh, this or any tool is first vetted by the client security team. They ensure that no one, including the service provider like us, could turn the database back to its original form before accepting it to be used in their environment.
Having that tool sounds pretty key to anonymization. So I'm glad we were able to do that. Folks should be comfortable, with that, that we have that tool. Other questions concerning database compatibility. So we know there's a lot of different databases out there. So what do we do to make them compatible, and to analyze it and then ensure success?
So when migrating data from Visual FoxPro to any database like SQL Server, it's important to consider the best data type mapping to ensure accurate data storage and for storage and retrieval. Keeping in mind the SQL Server as a more robust set of data types than VFP, so you may need to make some adjustments to the data type during the migration process to ensure accuracy and integrity of the data. For example, in case of SQL Server, data type nvarchar should be used for VFP character type data. Bit type shall be used for VFP logical type data. Ntext or nvarchar max can be used for VFP memo type fields. Int or big int with identity property can be used for the VFP auto incremental data type. Additionally, it's important to consider the length of the data in each field, as well as any constraints that such as primary keys, foreign keys, and unique constraints that may be applied to data. Um, as mentioned earlier, a general rule is thoroughly test the migration process with a subset of data before migrating the entire database to ensure that the data is accurately and successfully transferred to the SQL Server database or the new modern database that you choose.
Compatibility is key. I can hear it. I hear all the details there. So appreciate that. So I had one final question before we turn it to the audience. We'll do it via chat. Um, what comes up a lot of times is data consolidation and how we handle it. So if you can just give a few minutes on how we handle data consolidation.
To understand the data consolidation, I am presenting two common cases for the data consolidation. One is consolidating history tables to one main table, and second is consolidating separate client databases to one database. This mainly depends on scope of the application. So let's discuss first the history data consolidation. VFP DBFs have size limitation. It was common practice long ago by the FoxPro programmers to use multiple DBFs if large amount of records are expected. Most common example is general ledger program. Separate DBFs may be used for each fiscal year, and there can be last 20, 25, or more than that years of databases for each fiscal year exist. This kind of programs asks users to define fiscal year in start so that it could load the respective database. So to work in any fiscal year data, you need to select the year so that it could load that fiscal year database. This is no more a useful technique as modern databases have virtually no limitations. Um, for databases where history data is required, it is advised to consolidate all fiscal years based on a DBS into one consolidated table. It should be part of the migration process that what fields to be added. For example, if the legacy VFP DBF does not have the fiscal year field, this new fiscal year field should be added to the modern database before you migrate the data and consolidate the data into one table. Our The second case is consolidating separate clients databases to one common database. This requires more effort than our first case, and also this depends on the scope of the new application. For example, an ERP application that uses separate VFP databases for each client. Now, client is moving to a SaaS-based model with single database, um, and the requirement is we have to include the client ID to each table because all the client databases are merged to one database. This way, each client data can be differentiated with the client ID field.
Yes, makes perfect sense. Consolidation is definitely a big part of the migration effort. So hopefully folks got a lot out of that, what you just said. So Imran, I appreciate your time, your expertise. Obviously it comes out in everything that you're saying to us at this point. So appreciate it. Like I said, what I wanted to do now is open up the questions via the chat, and then we'll answer them real time, and we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to go ahead and wait a few seconds to see if we have any questions via chat. Okay, I see something here. Question number one: could you advise data type mapping for memo field?
We advise if you are talking about the SQL Server, the target database SQL Server, so ntext or nvarchar max should be used for the memo type data fields in VFP.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. See if there's any others. Okay, question two: what is the recommended modern database for VFP data migrations?
A VFP database can be migrated to any modern database. I recommend SQL Server database because both VFP and SQL Server are Microsoft products, and people find it more compatible to each other, and it's more easy to work in the SQL Server if you are migrating from VFP.
That makes sense. Okay, let's see if we have any others. Oh, okay, here we go. Question number three: do you recommend any VFP database migration tools?
There are some tools available for VFP database migration, but these are all almost the general tools for kind of database migrations. We recommend our own tool, Datamorph, which is specifically provide the migration of VFP database. And we are posting the link in chat, and you can check this tool online, and you can download and evaluate it as well.
Yeah, I know firsthand that's a very powerful tool. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. Okay, so we're at the end here. I don't see any other questions. I want to thank Imran one more time for his expertise and time. You give us a lot of details. Hopefully, folks will take that away and maybe have other questions that maybe they're not thinking of right now. I want to thank the audience. I got a bunch of really good questions there, and I want to say if there is a need for a migration quote or a sizing, please contact me. We should see my contact details coming up. Obviously, we're a Macrosoft. You can look us up very easily there. Actually, you could see it there. Um, Very willing and open to understand what your application, give you that quote, give you all the details. I play the central main point of contact, so I appreciate that. And if you have any other questions about what we talk about today, let me know. And then lastly, what I want to say is this is there'll be one more session for this topic. We typically do about 30 days 30 days in advance, and hopefully we'll see you then. And thanks everybody for their time. Bye bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.